Chapter 1. The Most Unwilling Marriage Contract. The convenience store bun was, objectively speaking, a terrible way to die. Wei Yin had always imagined he would go out with some dignity, perhaps struck by lightning while saving a kitten, or quietly in his sleep at the ripe old age of 90. Instead, he choked on a lukewarm pork bun while watching episode 7 of a painfully addictive BL drama on his phone. His last conscious thought, as his vision dimmed in his tiny studio apartment, was, "At least I finished that scene where the cold so confessed." Then there was light. Then there was pain. Then there was an overwhelming scent of sandalwood and herbal medicine. Oh, thank the heavens. Second young master, you're awake. Wei Yin opened his eyes to find a ceiling he did not recognize. Ornate wooden beams carved with phoenixes, lanterns glowing with what appeared to be actual fire, and a terrified teenager in flowing robes leaning over him. What in the historical drama? Second young master Wei, you fainted again? I'll fetch the healer immediately. The teenager bolted. Wei Yin sat up slowly, his body aching in ways that suggested this vessel had never seen a gym or a proper vegetable. He looked down at pale, slender hands, not his hands, and then at the room. Silk screens, incense burners, a sword mounted on the wall. Memories that were not his flooded in like a tidal wave. Wei Yin, second young master of the Azure Peak sect, sickly since birth, weak spiritual veins, a burden, and, most critically, betrothed. The flood of memories continued, and Wei Yan's eyes grew wider with each passing second. 3 days until the wedding. To whom? Lord Yi Chun, the Demon King, the crimson-eyed tyrant, the butcher of 3 realms. Wei Yin lay back down and closed his eyes. No, absolutely not. I reject this plot. But the plot, as plots do, refused to reject him. The next 3 days passed in a blur of servants stuffing him into red silk robes, elders lecturing him on sacrifice for the sect, and his new body coughing spectacularly every time he tried to walk more than 10 steps. The original Wei Yin had apparently been petrified of his demon husband-to-be, a fear shared by everyone in the cultivation world. The new Wei Yin, however, saw things differently. He was a 26-year-old office worker who had spent 8 years in a soul-crushing cubicle job. He had survived quarterly reports, mandatory team-building exercises, and a boss who used the phrase, "let's circle back," unironically. A marriage to a scary demon king? That sounded like an all-inclusive resort compared to his previous life. Let me get this straight, he thought, lying on his wedding day bed as servants fussed over his hair. I marry the most powerful being in the realm. He handles all fighting, politics, and external threats. My only job is to look pretty and stay in bed. He smiled serenely. This is the best retirement plan I've ever fallen into. The servants mistook his smile for grim acceptance of his tragic fate. They wept. Wei Yin patted their heads absently and asked if there would be food at the reception. The wedding ceremony was a blur of red, gold, and suspicious glares from every cultivator in attendance. Wei Yin was married by proxy, because the Demon King, apparently, did not do ceremonies, and then bundled into a palanquin carried by flying spiritual beasts toward the demon realm. By the time they arrived at the demon palace, Wei Yin was thoroughly exhausted. The palanquin was comfortable, but turbulence was turbulence. He yawned hugely as servants led him through halls of black jade and crimson lanterns to the bridal chamber. Finally, he thought, a bed. He did not wait for anyone's permission. He shed the outer layers of his wedding robes, crawled under the silk covers, and was nearly asleep when the doors slammed open. The temperature in the room dropped by 20 degrees. Wei Yin cracked one eye open. Lord Yi Chun, the Demon King, stood in the doorway. He was not what Wei Yin expected. Oh, he was terrifying in theory. Tall, sharp features, eyes that glowed like molten ruby, hair as black as ink spilling over shoulders clad in dark armor. But his expression was one of barely concealed disgust, as if he had been forced to attend a mandatory company picnic. He doesn't want to be here either, Wei Yin realized with profound relief. Excellent. We can be awkward roommates who never talk. Yi Chun strode into the room, his boots echoing on the stone floor. His voice was low and cold. "So, you're the sickly peace offering." Wei Yin nodded from the cocoon of blankets. "That's me. Pleasure to meet you." Yi Chen's eye twitched. He had expected trembling, tears, perhaps a plea for mercy. He had not expected this. A pale, fragile-looking young man with dark circles under his eyes, already in bed, looking for all the world like he was about to ask for a cup of tea and a bedtime story. "I'm not pleased by this arrangement," Yi Chen said flatly. "Neither am I, honestly," Wei Yin replied. "But here we are." The silence stretched. Yi Chen's hand drifted to the sword at his hip, more out of habit than intent. He was trying to intimidate the boy. It wasn't working. Wei Yin sighed. He really was very tired. The long journey, the new body, the emotional whiplash of dying and being reborn. It was all catching up to him. He offered the Demon King a tired, polite smile. Wei Yin, with genuine exhaustion. "Ah, you're here. I'm really sorry, but I'm very weak today. Do you mind if we just go straight to sleep? No sudden moves, please." He said it kindly, considerately, a gentle request from one unwilling participant to another. What Lord Yi Chen heard was entirely different. The moment the words left Wei Yan's lips, a sound like a bell chimed deep within Yi Chen's spiritual sea. The words translated, in his perception, twisting into something sharp and commanding. System translation: "You finally arrive. Weak? Don't mistake my patience for fragility. Tonight, you will lie still. Any sudden moves, and I will pin you down myself." Yi Chen's entire body froze. His mind, accustomed to processing battlefield tactics and political schemes, ground to a complete halt. He stared at the sickly young master, who was now blinking up at him with innocent, slightly sleepy eyes. Did that just... The words replayed in his head. The tone, low, possessive, absolutely dominant. The content, a direct command, veiled in politeness, that promised physical restraint. This frail boy just threatened to immobilize the Demon King on their wedding night. Yi Chen felt heat crawl up his neck. His ears burned. His heart, which had not raced in battle for a century, began to pound against his ribs like a caged bird. What kind of monster have I married? Wei Yin, noticing the Demon King's sudden stillness and the faint flush spreading across those sharp cheekbones, tilted his head. "Are you okay? You look a little red." Wei Yin, concerned, "Seriously, you can sleep on the other side. I won't bite." System translation: "Control yourself. I see your agitation. Sleep on the far side. I will not tolerate closeness tonight. Stay in your lane." Yi Chen's flush deepened to crimson. He's already dictating where I sleep. He's establishing boundaries with threats of violence. This is... He didn't know what this was, but he knew he had never encountered anything like it. For the first time in 500 years, Yi Chen, the Demon King, the terror of the cultivation world, found himself completely and utterly flustered. He extinguished the candles with a wave of his hand. In the darkness, Wei Yin heard the rustle of robes and the careful, deliberate placement of a body on the very far edge of the bed. The mattress dipped only slightly. A long silence, then barely audible. "As you command." Wei Yin, already half asleep, mumbled, "What? Nothing. Go to sleep before I change my mind." He's so grumpy, Wei Yin thought fondly. But at least he's respecting my boundaries. This marriage might work out after all. He smiled and drifted off. Beside him, Yi Chen lay rigid as a board, staring at the ceiling, one hand pressed over his racing heart. What have I gotten myself into? Chapter 2. The Tyrant Who Wants Porridge. Morning came with the subtle sounds of a palace waking up, servants whispering, birds singing, and the distant clash of what might have been sword practice or an assassination attempt. In the demon realm, it was often difficult to tell. Wei Yin woke slowly, luxuriously, the way he had never been able to wake in his previous life, because his alarm had always been set for 6:15 a.m. The bed was soft, the blankets were warm, and there was no quarterly report waiting for him. Heaven, he thought. This is actual heaven. He stretched like a cat, yawned, and then froze as his elbow hit something solid and warm. He turned his head. Lord Yi Chen was still there, sitting upright against the headboard with his arms crossed, watching Wei Yin with an unreadable expression. He had clearly been awake for hours. His eyes were sharp, assessing, and slightly red-rimmed, as if he hadn't slept at all. Wei Yin blinked. "Did you watch me sleep?" Yi Chen's jaw tightened. "I was evaluating my supposed husband." "You drool." "Fair," Wei Yin thought. He wiped his mouth. "Sorry about that. Next time, just wake me up." Wei Yin, cheerfully, "You should have nudged me. I don't bite in the morning." System translation. Patience. "You sat there like a fool instead of waking your lord. Next time, touch me. I will not harm you, unless you deserve it." Yi Chen's face went through an astonishing journey. Confusion, horror, embarrassment, and then that same deep, burning crimson that had appeared the night before. He looked away sharply. "I was not going to touch you without permission," he hissed. "I am not some uncouth beast." Wei Yin was genuinely confused now. "I mean, you're my husband. Touching is allowed. It's fine." Wei Yin, "Really, it's okay. We're married." System translation. "You have my permission. Do not mistake my earlier command for rejection. Touch me. I allow it. Do not make me repeat myself." Yi Chen made a small, strangled noise. Wei Yin, oblivious, threw off the covers and padded toward the door. His silk sleeping robes billowed behind him. He looked like a very tired, very pale ghost, but a friendly one. "I'm going to find breakfast," he announced. "Want anything?" Before Yi Chen could answer, Wei Yin was already opening the door and immediately encountered a horde of demon servants waiting in the hallway, trays in hand, clearly having been standing there for some time. The lead servant, a tall woman with horns and an expression of long-suffering professionalism, bowed. "Young Master Wei, breakfast is prepared. His Highness the Demon King typically takes his meal in the war room." "Nope," Wei Yin said. "He's eating here. Bring it in." Wei Yin, casually. "He eats in the war room? Not anymore. Bring everything here." System translation. "The war room? Ridiculous. From now on, he eats where I eat. Bring the food. Do not argue." The demon servants exchanged glances. The lead servant's eyes darted to Yi Chen, still sitting rigidly on the bed, face unreadable. Yi Chen gave a single, nearly imperceptible nod. He cannot contradict his husband in front of the staff, Yi Chen told himself. That would show weakness. It has nothing to do with the fact that my heart is pounding like a war drum. The food arrived. Wei Yin sat cross-legged on the bed like a barbarian, and began sampling everything. The demon cooks, it turned out, were excellent. There were savory porridges, grilled fish, pickled vegetables, and a type of sweet rice cake that Wei Yin immediately decided was his new favorite food. Yi Chen watched him eat with an expression of horrified fascination. "You have no manners. Manners are overrated," Wei Yin said around a mouthful of rice cake. "Eat something. You look tense." Wei Yin, kindly, "Hey, you look really tense. Come eat. The porridge is good." System translation. "Your tension is obvious. Sit. Eat. The porridge meets my standards. Join me, or I will feed you myself." Yi Chen's hand trembled slightly as he reached for a bowl. "He's threatening to hand-feed me," he thought hysterically, in front of the servants. This man has no shame. He ate the porridge. It was good. He hated that it was good. Wei Yin finished his meal, patted his stomach, and announced that he was going to explore the palace gardens. Yi Chen, still reeling, watched him leave. The demon servants immediately began whispering. "Did you hear what he said? Join me, or I will feed you myself." The way he just dismissed the war room schedule. He didn't even bow. He didn't even look scared. The lead servant silenced them with a look. Then she turned to Yi Chen. "My lord, your husband is unexpected." Yi Chen stared at the doorway where Wei Yin had disappeared. His ears were still pink. "Unexpected," he repeated quietly. "Yes, that is one word for it." He stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over his tea. "I'm going to the training grounds," he announced. "I need to hit something hard." He did not mention that the face he kept seeing every time he closed his eyes was pale, sleepy, and smirking with imaginary dominance. The gardens were, objectively, gorgeous. Wei Yin wandered through them with no particular destination in mind, enjoying the feel of sunlight on his face and the complete absence of anyone asking him to fill out a spreadsheet. The demon realm was darker than the mortal realm. The sun was a deep orange, the flowers bloomed in shades of purple and black, but it had a stark, wild beauty that he appreciated. He was admiring a particular bush of midnight blue roses when he heard voices. "He's so frail, did you see him? The Demon King could probably snap him in half. I heard he was sent here as a sacrifice. The sect didn't want him. Can you imagine them together? The Butcher of Three Realms and that pale little sparrow." The voices belonged to two demon nobles, dressed in fine silks, clearly unaware that Wei Yin was standing right behind the rose bush. Wei Yin sighed. Office politics had taught him one valuable skill: how to completely ignore gossip. He was about to walk away when another voice cut through, sharp, cold, and utterly furious. "Speak of my husband again, and I will remove your tongues." Yi Chun materialized from the shadows like a nightmare given form. His eyes glowed crimson. His spiritual pressure crashed down like a mountain, forcing both nobles to their knees. The nobles paled. "And my lord, we meant no offense." Offense was taken, Yi Chun said softly, which somehow made it worse. "Leave now, and pray I forget your faces by tomorrow." They fled. Wei Yin stepped out from behind the rose bush, genuinely impressed. "Wow, that was dramatic." Yi Chun whirled on him, and for a moment, his expression was unguarded. Frustration, protectiveness, confusion, all tangled together. Then it smoothed into cold neutrality. "You should not wander alone," Yi Chun said. "This realm is not safe for mortals." "Then maybe you should walk with me," Wei Yin suggested with a lazy smile. Wei Yin casually, "Then walk with me." Problem solved. System translation. "Then accompany me." "I am not asking. Move." Yi Chun's face flooded with color. He looked away, his jaw working. "I have duties." "Can they wait?" Wei Yin, "Can they wait?" "Just for a walk. It's nice out." System translation. "Your duties can wait. I am requesting your presence. Deny me, and consequences follow." Yi Chun made a sound that might have been a growl or a whimper. Wei Yin couldn't tell which. "Fine," Yi Chun bit out. "One walk. Then I return to work." They walked in silence for a while, Wei Yin admiring the strange flowers and Yi Chun radiating tension like a furnace. Every few steps, the Demon King would glance at Wei Yin out of the corner of his eye, then look away quickly when he realized he'd been caught. Wei Yin found it oddly endearing. The fearsome Demon King was apparently just a socially awkward grump. "You know," Wei Yin said eventually, "you don't have to be so tense around me. I'm not going to cause trouble." "Wei Yin, relax. I'm not here to cause trouble for you." System translation. "Release that tension. I did not marry you to make your life difficult. Trust me, I will not harm what is mine." Yi Chun stopped walking. His hands were trembling slightly. His breathing had gone shallow. "What is mine?" he thought. He said, "What is mine?" Like I'm a possession. Like I'm. "What did you just say?" Yi Chun asked, his voice rough. Wei Yin blinked. "I said I'm not here to cause trouble." "No," Yi Chun thought. "That's not what I heard." But he couldn't ask for clarification without revealing something he didn't understand himself. "Fine," Yi Chun said, turning away. "We'll see if that remains true." He walked away, stride too fast, shoulders too tight. Wei Yin watched him go, utterly bewildered. What's his problem? He wondered. "I was being nice." He shrugged and went back to admiring the flowers. The demon realm really was beautiful once he got used to the existential dread. Chapter 3. The Secret Sword Training. The peace lasted exactly 3 days. On the fourth morning, Wei Yin was enjoying a perfectly lovely nap on a garden bench. He had discovered that napping was not only allowed but encouraged when you were sickly, when a commotion at the palace gates woke him. Servants were running, guards were shouting, and a familiar, grating voice cut through the chaos like a rusty knife. "I am an elder of the Azure Peak sect. You cannot keep me from my sect brother's son." Wei Yin sat up, rubbing his eyes. Elder Feng. He remembered the name from his borrowed memories. A pompous, self-important cultivator who had always looked down on the weak second young master. The original Wei Yin had been terrified of him. The new Wei Yin just found him annoying. The elder was already storming through the gardens, his gray robes billowing, his entourage of junior disciples trailing behind him like confused ducklings. He spotted Wei Yin and made a beeline. Wei Yin, there you are. I have come to ensure the treaty is being upheld. His eyes swept over Wei Yin with disdain. Though I see you've made yourself comfortable. Typical. Wei Yin yawned. Hello, Elder Feng. Nice to see you too. Elder Feng's eye twitched. He was clearly expecting groveling. Where is the Demon King? I must speak with him about the border patrols. This so-called peace cannot rely on the word of a... He stopped. He looked around. He lowered his voice, as if sharing a secret. A beast, he finished. The Demon King is a beast who needs a leash. Everyone knows it. The only reason the treaty exists is because we were gracious enough to offer him... what? A sickly boy? He should be grateful. Wei Yin's pleasant, sleepy expression didn't change. But something in his chest tightened. He didn't particularly like Yi Chun. Not yet, anyway. They were strangers doing a political dance. But he also didn't like bullies. And Elder Feng, with his sneering face and his casual cruelty, was the same type of middle management tyrant Wei Yin had dealt with his entire office life. No more, he decided. I'm retired. I don't have to smile at assholes anymore. He sat up straighter on the bench and fixed Elder Feng with a mild, unimpressed look. Wei Yin, mildly annoyed, Senior, my husband is right here. If you have a problem with his etiquette, why don't you take it up with me? I'm not very strong, but I can at least show you the garden gate. What he meant, stop bad-mouthing my husband when he's literally standing 10 feet away, you absolute walnut. What Elder Feng and everyone else heard was a different matter entirely. The system, detecting the presence of a hostile cultivator and Wei Yan's subconscious desire to yeet him into the sun, kicked into high gear. System translation, Senior. You dare insult what is mine in front of me? If you question his control, question my sword. I am weak. One more word, and I'll use your spine to demonstrate the gate's height. The temperature dropped. Elder Feng went white. His disciples stumbled backward. And from the shadows of the garden pavilion, where he had been silently observing the entire exchange, Lord Yi Chun stepped forward. His eyes were wide. His face was flushed. His heart was pounding so hard he was certain everyone could hear it. He defended me, Yi Chun thought, in front of an elder from his own sect, with threats of violence. For me. You heard my husband, Yi Chun said, and his voice was steady, but there was a tremor beneath it. Leave, before I help him demonstrate the gate's height personally. Elder Feng fled. His disciples fled. The garden was suddenly very quiet. Wei Yin blinked at Yi Chun. Oh, you were there? Good timing. He was being annoying. Wei Yin, thanks for backing me up. That guy's a jerk. System translation, your timing was adequate. That man insulted you in my presence. I handled the words. You handled the fear. We work well together. Do not expect praise often. Yi Chun's face went through another spectacular color shift. Pale, to pink, to red, to something approaching purple. Shut up, he said weakly. Wei Yin tilted his head. I just said thank you. Shut up. Yi Chun spun on his heel and walked toward the training grounds. Follow me. Oh, why? Because I said so. Wei Yin sighed and followed. So much for his nap. The training grounds were a vast, open courtyard lined with weapons racks and scarred by centuries of combat. At its center stood a training dummy that had clearly been abused beyond reason. Yi Chun drew his demonic blade. The sword gleamed black, edged with red light, humming with power. Fight me, Yi Chun demanded. Wei Yin stared at him. I'm sorry. The way you spoke to Elder Feng, the confidence, the threat. You're not as weak as you pretend. Yi Chun's eyes narrowed. Fight me. Show me your true strength. Wei Yin wanted to laugh. His true strength was the ability to finish a spreadsheet in under an hour and a half. He had zero combat training, zero spiritual power, and zero desire to be stabbed. But Yi Chun looks so serious, he thought, like a cat puffing up its fur. It's almost cute. Wei Yin sighed deeply. He was too tired for this. Too tired for sword fights. Too tired for posturing. Too tired for whatever insecurity was driving the Demon King to demand a sparring match. He walked toward Yi Chun, not cautiously, not fearfully, just walked, straight, toward the glowing demonic blade. Yi Chen's eyes widened. What do you stop? Wei Yin did not stop. He walked right past the sword, right into Yi Chen's personal space, and gently patted the Demon King's cheek. Wei Yin, exhausted, put that away before you hurt yourself. Let's go have tea. System translation, aggressive, dominant, utterly unhinged, sheath your toy. You're embarrassing yourself. Tea. Now. I won't repeat myself. The sword clattered to the ground. Yi Chen's face was no longer just red. It was incandescent. Steam might have been rising from his ears. His lips parted, closed, parted again. No sound came out. He walked right up to my blade. He touched my face. He called my sword a toy. He ordered me to tea like I was a misbehaving child. Tea. Yi Chen repeated, his voice cracking. Yes, tea, Wei Yin said. You look like you need to sit down. Come on. He turned and walked toward the pavilion, expecting to be followed. Yi Chen followed him like a lost puppy, face burning, mind blank, heart in chaos. What is happening to me? Yi Chen thought desperately. I am the Demon King. I do not get ordered to tea. I do not get pats on the cheek. I do not. But he did. And somewhere, deep in his chest, a small voice whispered that he didn't entirely hate it. The tea was excellent. Wei Yin had brewed it himself. One of the few skills he'd brought from his previous life, since his grandmother had been a tea enthusiast. He poured a cup for Yi Chen, who was sitting stiffly across from him, still not quite meeting his eyes. So, Wei Yin said, why did you really want to fight me? Yi Chen's jaw tightened. I told you. I wanted to see your true strength. And I told you. I don't have any. I'm sickly. That's the whole point. Yi Chen finally looked at him, a sharp, searching gaze. Then how do you speak to me the way you do? How do you threaten elders without fear? How do you? He struggled. How do you make me feel like I'm the one who should be afraid? Wei Yin considered this. He couldn't explain the system because he didn't know about the system. From his perspective, he was just being honest, tired, polite, mildly sarcastic. He had no idea that his words were being transmuted into verbal dragon fire. So he told the truth as he understood it. I'm not afraid because I have nothing to lose, Wei Yin said quietly. I've been weak my whole life. People have looked down on me, pitted me, used me. I'm tired of pretending that matters. You could kill me right now, and honestly, I'd probably just take a nap in the afterlife. Wei Yin, honest, I don't have anything to prove to anyone anymore, including you. System translation. Fear is for those who have something to lose. I have nothing. You could strike me down, and I would greet death with a yawn. You cannot intimidate a man who has already accepted his own ending. Test me if you wish. Yi Chen stared at him. The words, both versions, layered over each other in his mind. The simple honesty of the original and the terrifying fatalism of the translation. Together, they painted a picture of a man who was either deeply enlightened or deeply unhinged. Or both, Yi Chen thought. He's both. I am not going to kill you, Yi Chen said finally. You're my husband. The treaty, Wei Yin interrupted gently, doesn't require you to like me. But I'd like it if we could at least be friends. Or friendly roommates. Whatever works. Friends. Roommates. Yi Chen looked down at his tea. The idea of being friendly with this pale, sharp-tongued, inexplicably dominant mortal was absurd. He was the Demon King. He did not have friends. But when he looked at Wei Yan's calm, tired face, something in his chest loosened. The tea is acceptable, Yi Chen said. Wei Yin smiled. High praise from a Demon King. Don't push your luck. They drank their tea in silence. But the silence was different now. Less hostile, more curious. Like two cats circling each other, trying to decide if the other was a threat or a warm place to nap. Wei Yin, for his part, decided that married life in the demon realm was shaping up to be surprisingly pleasant. Yi Chen, for his part, decided that he desperately needed to figure out what kind of creature he had married before his heart gave out entirely. Chapter 4. The Poisoning Incident. It happened on a Tuesday. Well, the demon realm didn't have Tuesdays, but Wei Yin had started keeping track of days in his head, and by his count, it was the equivalent of a Tuesday. The weather was gray. The servants were quiet. And Elder Feng, still nursing his wounded pride, had apparently decided that if he couldn't humiliate the Demon King directly, he would attack the treaty through its weakest link. Wei Yin did not know any of this. He simply accepted the bowl of evening soup that a new servant brought to his room, noted that it tasted slightly more bitter than usual, and ate it anyway because he was hungry and lazy. The poison was slow-acting and debilitating, designed to mimic a natural worsening of his pre-existing illness. By the time anyone noticed, Wei Yin would simply be the sickly young master who finally succumbed to his weak constitution. It was objectively a good plan. It did not account for Wei Yan's complete lack of self-preservation instincts. An hour after dinner, Wei Yin decided to take a walk to the lotus pond. The evening air was cool. The lotuses glowed faintly in the moonlight, a demon realm variety that bioluminesced. He stood at the edge of the water, admiring the view, when his vision blurred. That's weird, he thought. His knees buckled. Oh, he thought as he fell. That's really weird. He collapsed dramatically near the lotus pond, landing in a heap of silk robes and tangled limbs. The last thing he saw before his vision went dark was the moon reflecting off the water, and the last thing he thought was, I hope someone finds me before the fish do. Yichun found him 15 minutes later. The Demon King had been returning from a border inspection when he sensed it, a faint spiritual disturbance near the lotus pond, a whiff of something wrong in the air. He changed direction without thinking, his feet carrying him faster than his mind could process. When he saw Wei Yan's crumpled form on the ground, pale as death, lips tinged blue, his entire world stopped. My lord! A servant screamed. The young master! Yichun was already there, dropping to his knees, gathering Wei Yin into his arms. The body was too light, too cold, the pulse barely aflutter beneath his fingers. No! Yichun whispered. Then louder no. No! No! He shook Wei Yin. The head lolled. The eyes remained closed. Yichun, desperate, wake up. You cannot. I did not wake up. Wei Yin, drifting in a haze of poison and confusion, heard the shouting. It sounded far away, like someone yelling at him through water. He forced his eyes open, just barely. Yichun's face hovered above him. The Demon King's eyes were wild, his cheeks wet, his composure shattered. Oh, Wei Yin thought muzzily. He's crying. That's unexpected. He lifted a trembling hand. It took enormous effort, and patted Yichun's cheek. Wei Yin, sincerely, in weakness, sorry for the trouble. If I die, don't be sad, okay? You should find someone healthier. I've just been a burden. What he meant? I'm sorry to cause you stress. You seem like a good person underneath all the dramatics. I hope you're happy after I'm gone. System translation, aggressive, possessive, completely unhinged, don't fuss. Death is trivial. But if you mourn me, I will be displeased. Find another? I would shatter their cultivation core before they touched you. You're mine, even in the afterlife. Do you understand? Mine. Yichun's vision went red. Not from sorrow, though sorrow was there, a deep, aching pit in his chest, but from a volatile cocktail of terror, adoration, and white-hot rage. He's possessive of me from beyond the grave, Yichun thought hysterically. He's threatening my hypothetical future spouse. He's telling me not to be sad while actively dying in my arms. What is wrong with this man? But beneath the hysteria was something else. Something that made his hands shake and his voice crack. Yichun, roaring, tears streaming, you insane man. Do not dictate my grief. I will find the one who did this, and I will feed them their own meridians. Do you hear me? I will not mourn you because you are not going to die. Wei Yin, fading out again, managed a weak smile. That's not very nice, but thanks for caring. Caring. Yichun screamed. I am not caring. I am terrified. There is a difference. He gathered Wei Yin against his chest and ran. The demon's servants scattered before him. The palace healers were summoned. The antidote was brewed under Yichun's direct, furious supervision. He stood over the cauldron, eyes burning, ready to incinerate anyone who made a mistake. And through it all, he held Wei Yan's cold, limp hand. Don't die, he thought over and over. Don't die, don't die, don't die. I forbid it. You're mine, remember? You said so yourself. so don't you dare leave me. Wei Yin woke 3 days later. The first thing he saw was the ceiling of his room, the familiar phoenix carvings, the glowing lanterns. The second thing he saw was Yi Chun, slumped in a chair beside the bed, dark circles under his eyes, still wearing the same clothes from the night of the poisoning. He stayed, Wei Yin thought, surprised. He tried to speak. His throat was dry, his voice a rasp. Yi Chun, the Demon King, jolted awake instantly, crimson eyes snapping to Wei Yan's face. For a moment, his expression was unguarded. Relief, so raw it was almost painful to look at. Then he masked it, sitting up straight, crossing his arms. "You're awake," Yi Chun said flatly. "Finally, you slept for 3 days. Very inconvenient." Wei Yin smiled weakly. "Sorry for the inconvenience. It was very inconvenient." "I said I was sorry." "You said nothing of the sort. You said—" Yi Chun stopped, swallowed, looked away. "You said things." Wei Yin waited. Yi Chun's voice, when it came, was quieter. "You said I should find someone healthier. You called yourself a burden." Wei Yin winced. That. I didn't mean—" "If you ever say anything like that again," Yi Chun interrupted, still not looking at him, "I will lock you in this room until you learn some sense. You are not a burden. You are not replaceable. And I will not." His voice cracked. "I will not find someone else." The silence stretched. Wei Yin looked at the Demon King, the terror of the cultivation world, the butcher of 3 realms, and saw a man who was exhausted, scared, and trying very hard not to cry. Maybe, Wei Yin thought, he cares about me more than I realized. "We won't find someone else, then," Wei Yin said softly. "Just us." "Okay." Yi Chun finally looked at him. His eyes were wet. "Fine," he whispered, "but only because the treaty requires it." "Of course, only because of the treaty." They looked at each other. Something passed between them. Not quite love, not quite understanding, but a beginning. A thread. Wei Yin reached out and took Yi Chun's hand. Yi Chun let him. Neither of them mentioned that the Demon King's hand was trembling. Chapter 5. The Confession. Recovery was slow. The poison had damaged Wei Yan's already weak meridians, leaving him even more tired than usual. He spent most of his days in bed, reading the Demon Realm's surprisingly extensive collection of trashy cultivation novels, or being fed soup by servants who had apparently decided he was their new favorite charge. Yi Chun visited every day. He never admitted to visiting. He would happen to be passing by, or need to check something in the adjacent room, or accidentally walk in while lost in thought. But he always ended up sitting in the chair beside Wei Yan's bed, pretending to read reports while actually watching Wei Yan from the corner of his eye. Wei Yan found it adorable. "You know," he said one afternoon, setting down his novel, "you could just sit here without making excuses." Wei Yan, affectionately, "You don't have to pretend. Just sit with me." System translation: "Your excuses bore me. Sit. Stay. I enjoy your presence. Do not make me say it again." Yi Chun's ears went red. "I am not pretending anything. I am simply reading the same report for 20 minutes?" Yi Chun looked down at the papers in his hands. He had, indeed, been staring at the same page without reading a word. "Shut up." Wei Yin laughed. It was a weak laugh, still recovering, but genuine. "You're cute when you're flustered." Wei Yin: "You're cute when you're embarrassed." System translation: "Your embarrassment pleases me. I will keep teasing you until you accept my affection. Resistance is futile." Yi Chun stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. "I am not cute. I am a Demon King. I have conquered realms. I have." "You're blushing." "I am not." "You're adorable." Yi Chun made a sound of pure frustration and stormed out of the room. Wei Yin heard him shouting at a servant in the hallway about something unrelated, his voice high and cracked. Definitely adorable, Wei Yin thought, and went back to his novel. But the thought stayed with him. Yi Chun was growing on him, like a particularly aggressive vine, or a cat that pretended to hate you but slept on your pillow every night. The Demon King was prickly, dramatic, and prone to extreme emotional reactions. But he was also fiercely protective, surprisingly loyal, and clearly trying very hard to be a good husband despite having no idea how. Wei Yin, who had spent his previous life alone, watching BL dramas, and wishing someone would look at him the way the fictional characters looked at each other, realized something. I want him to know. Not the system's version. Not the aggressive, dominant translation. The real version. The quiet, tired, honest version that had been buried under layers of politeness and exhaustion. He didn't know how to say it. Words had never been his strong suit. He'd always been better at actions, at showing up, at being present. But Wei Yin was sick, recovering, and confined to bed. His actions were limited. So he fell back on an old habit. He wrote. The paper was simple. The ink was black. The words were plain. He wrote, I don't say it much, but I'm glad you're here. You make my days peaceful. He folded the note and gave it to a servant to deliver. Then he went back to his novel, heart pounding, pretending he wasn't nervous. Yichen received the note during a war council. His generals were arguing about border patrols. His advisors were presenting trade agreements. And a small demon servant crept in and handed him a folded piece of paper with a whispered, from the young master, my lord. Yichen unfolded it. He read it. The system, ever chaotic, ever present, automatically translated written words into Yichen's spiritual perception. The plain, simple sentence Wei Yin had written was transmuted before Yichen's eyes into something else entirely. What Wei Yin wrote, I don't say it much, but I'm glad you're here. You make my days peaceful. What Yichen saw, silence. My patience wears thin. You are the anchor to my peace. If you leave, I will burn every realm until I find you. Be grateful I tolerate your presence. Yichen's hand crushed the paper. His generals fell silent, watching in horror as their king's face cycled through emotions at an alarming rate. Confusion, shock, embarrassment, fury, and then, most terrifying of all, a deep, burning red that spread from his neck to his hairline. My lord, one general ventured, is something. Yichen, screaming, you can't just write such shameless things. Who taught you to court someone? A warlord. He threw a demonic fireball at the wall. It exploded spectacularly. Generals dove for cover. Yichen was already moving, storming through the palace halls, note clutched in his fist, heading straight for Wei Yan's room. He burst through the door. Wei Yan looked up from his novel, startled. Yichen? What's? Yichen crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed Wei Yan by the collar of his sleeping robe, and pulled him close. Their faces were inches apart. Yichen's eyes were wild, his breathing uneven, his face the color of a ripe tomato. Yichen, desperate, voice trembling, say it to my face. Say it. Wei Yan blinked. Say what? The note. What you wrote. Say it to my face, coward. Wei Yan's heart stuttered. He had been nervous about the note, but he hadn't expected this. The Demon King looked like he was about to either kiss him or kill him. Possibly both. He wanted to say it out loud. Wei Yan realized. He wants to hear me say I'm glad he's here. It was terrifying. It was also Wei Yan realized exactly what he wanted. He took a breath. He met Yichen's burning crimson eyes. And he said, simply and honestly, without any filter at all, I'm glad you're here, Yichen. You make my days peaceful. The system, for once, didn't need to translate. Wei Yan's true heart spoke directly. And Yichen heard, for the first time, a quiet, sincere sentence that needed no aggressive embellishment. True meaning, I'm glad you're here. You make my days peaceful. Yichen burst into tears. Not elegant tears. Not dignified tears. Full-body sobs, snot, and all, the kind of crying that came from weeks of emotional whiplash, terror, confusion, and a heart that had been lonely for 500 years. I hate you. Yichen sobbed into Wei Yan's shoulder. I hate you so much. Wei Yan, stunned, wrapped his arms around the Demon King. Okay, you made me feel things. I'm sorry. You're not sorry. No, Wei Yan admitted, stroking Yichen's hair. I'm not. They stayed like that for a long time. The Demon King, crying in the arms of his sickly husband, the sickly husband patting his back and wondering how his low-effort retirement plan had turned into this. But he wasn't complaining, not even a little. Chapter 6, The System Reveal. The Echo Stone was an ancient artifact, long buried beneath the ruins of a fallen sect. It had one purpose, to reveal hidden truths. Lies, secrets, forgotten memories. All could be dragged into the light by its power. No one had expected it to surface during the cultivation conference. But surface it did. An overeager young cultivator had stumbled upon it in a cave, brought it to the conference as a historical curiosity, and activated it by accident while showing off. The echo stone glowed. It hummed, and then it began to broadcast. Wei Yin and Yi Chun were standing near the edge of the conference grounds, having been forced to attend as a show of unity between the demon realm and the cultivation world. Wei Yin was bored. Yi Chun was tense. Neither of them noticed the stone's glow until it was too late. The echo stone projected the system's translation log for all to see. The cultivation world watched in horror/fascination/delight as a series of past conversations played out in glowing text above their heads. Scene 1. The wedding night. Wei Yin says, you're here. I'm really sorry, but I'm very weak today. Do you mind if we just go straight to sleep? No sudden moves, please. System translation. You finally arrive. Weak? Don't mistake my patience for fragility. Tonight, you will lie still. Any sudden moves, and I will pin you down myself. Scene 2. The morning after. Wei Yin says, you should have nudged me. I don't bite in the morning. System translation. Patience. You sat there like a fool instead of waking your lord. Next time, touch me. I will not harm you, unless you deserve it. Scene 3. The tea invitation. Wei Yin says, put that away before you hurt yourself. Let's go have tea. System translation. Sheath your toy. You're embarrassing yourself. Tea. Now. I won't repeat myself. Scene 4. The poisoning. Wei Yin says, sorry for the trouble. If I die, don't be sad, okay? You should find someone healthier. I've just been a burden. System translation. Don't fuss. Death is trivial. But if you mourn me, I will be displeased. Find another? I would shatter their cultivation core before they touched you. You're mine, even in the afterlife. The conference grounds fell silent. Every cultivator, every demon lord, every servant and elder and junior disciple stared at the glowing text. Then they stared at Wei Yin. Then they stared at Yi Chun. Wei Yin's jaw dropped. His brain, which had been coasting comfortably through his second life, suddenly slammed into gear. Oh, he thought. Oh, that's why his face has been permanently red. That's why he screams about tea. That's why he cried when I said I was glad he was here. There's a system, and it's been translating everything I say into. He looked at the translations again. His soul left his body. A warlord's love confession. I've been talking like a warlord for weeks. Yi Chun, meanwhile, stood frozen. His face was pale. His hand was shaking. He wasn't looking at the translations. He had lived through those translations, had heard every single one firsthand. He was looking at Wei Yin, looking for the truth. Yi Chun, Wei Yin started. I can explain. But Yi Chun wasn't listening to the words. He was listening to the silence between them. And in that silence, he heard everything. You never meant any of it, Yi Chun said quietly. His voice was small, vulnerable, nothing like the Demon King. The possessiveness, the threats, the domineering care. It was all a translation error. Wei Yin opened his mouth, closed it. He could lie. He could say that he'd meant some of it, that the system had just amplified what was already there. But he looked at Yi Chun's face, the fear, the hope, the desperate need to know, and decided that honesty was the only option. I didn't know about the system, Wei Yin said slowly. I thought we were just having normal conversations. I thought you were just an intense person. Yi Chun laughed. It was a broken, bitter sound. Normal conversations. You call me what is mine. You threatened elders for me. You said you'd burn realms for me. And it was all a misunderstanding, Wei Yin finished. Yes. The silence stretched. The cultivation world watched, breath held, as the Demon King's face crumbled. And then Wei Yin took a step forward. He was tired. He was sickly. He had no spiritual power and no combat training and no idea what he was doing. But he had one thing, the same thing he'd always had, honesty. He cupped Yi Chun's face in his hands, the way he'd done 100 times before. But this time, he didn't let the system speak for him. Wei Yin, clear, direct, without filter. I meant all of it. I'm just really bad at sounding serious. But I do want you to stay. I am glad you're mine. And I'm not going anywhere. No system translation. No aggressive dominance. Just Wei Yin, tired, honest, terrified, and completely sincere. Yi Chen's composure shattered. In front of every sect leader, every demon general, every cultivator and servant and elder who had ever doubted him, the demon king of the three realms burst into tears. Not angry tears, not frustrated tears, relieved tears. You're an idiot, Yi Chen sobbed, clinging to Wei Yan's robes. You're a complete idiot. You couldn't tell there was a system messing with your words. I thought you were just dramatic. I am dramatic, but not that dramatic. They held each other in the middle of the conference grounds, surrounded by stunned onlookers, while the echo stone continued to project increasingly embarrassing translation logs behind them. Elder Feng, watching from the crowd, quietly left the premises and never spoke of the treat. Why again? Chapter 7. The Polite Slacker's True Heart. A month later, things are different. Not entirely different. Wei Yin still napped constantly, still spoke in a lazy, polite drawl, still had zero interest in sword fighting or politics. But there was a new ease between him and Yi Chen, a new understanding. The system was still there. Wei Yin couldn't turn it off. But now that he knew about it, he used it on purpose. Yi Chen, he said one morning, looking up from his breakfast, the kanji is good today. You should try some. System translation. The kanji meets my standards. Taste it. I wish to see you enjoy something I have approved. Yi Chen, who had been mid-sip of tea, choked. You did that on purpose. Wei Yin smiled innocently. Did what? You know what? I have no idea what you're talking about. But his eyes sparkled. And Yi Chen, despite his red face, tried the kanji. It was good. He hated that it was good. The final conflict arrived in the form of the Celestial Court. The gods, it seemed, had decided that the treaty between the mortal realm and the demon realm was temporary and non-binding. They demanded Wei Yin be returned to the Azure Peak sect. They arrived at the demon palace with an army, golden-armored warriors, floating celestial platforms, the whole divine spectacle. Wei Yin and Yi Chen stood at the palace gates, watching the army descend. Yi Chen's hand was on his sword. His expression was cold, controlled, the mask of the demon king firmly in place. I will handle this. Go inside. No, Wei Yin said. Yi Chen turned to him, startled. What? Wei Yin stepped forward. For once, he wasn't tired. For once, the exhaustion that had defined his second life, the sickness, the weakness, the passivity, melted away, replaced by something else. Something that had been growing since the day he'd defended Yi Chen in the garden. He walked to the front of the palace gates. He faced the celestial army, and he spoke. Wei Yin, loudly, to the army, no. He stays with me. We're married. You can leave now, or I can show you how sickly I really am. He had no power. He was bluffing completely. But the system, sensing his sincerity and his absolute refusal to back down, translated his words to the entire army. System translation, broadcast to all know. He is mine. Our union is eternal. Depart, or I will paint these clouds with your ambition and your blood. The celestial army hesitated. They had heard the legends. The possessive ghost husband who threatened the demon king into submission. The sickly young master who talked like a warlord. The man who had, according to rumor, already claimed the demon king's heart, soul, and bedtime schedule. The general in charge of the army took one look at Wei Yan's calm, unimpressed face, remembered the Echo Stone broadcasts, and made a tactical decision. Retreat, the general shouted. We will revisit this matter at a later date. The army fled. Wei Yan stood there for a moment, heart pounding, and then felt arms wrap around him from behind. Yi Chen pressed his face into Wei Yan's shoulder, his body shaking. You absolute fool, Yi Chen whispered. You have zero spiritual energy. They would have killed you. Wei Yin patted his hands. But they didn't know that. You could have died, but I didn't. And now they're gone. Wei Yin turned in Yi Chen's arms, cupped his face, and smiled. See? Everything worked out. Yi Chen stared at him. His eyes were wet, again, and his face was red, again, and he looked like he wanted to both kiss Wei Yin and throttle him. "You're impossible," Yi Chen said. "I know. I hate you. I know. I don't hate you," Yi Chen admitted quietly. "I know that too." Yi Chen made a sound of pure frustration and buried his face in Wei Yan's neck. Wei Yin held him, stroking his hair, and looked up at the sky where the celestial army had disappeared. "Now," Wei Yin said, "let's go take a nap. I'm exhausted from being dramatic." Yi Chen laughed, a real laugh, bright and surprised, and pulled back just enough to look at Wei Yan's face. "Fine," he said, "but you're holding me." Obviously, they walked back into the palace together, hands intertwined, as behind them, the demon's servants and guards exchanged looks of profound relief and mild confusion. "Is the demon king cuddling?" A young Garmouth, the lead servant, the tall woman with horns, shook her head slowly. "He's been tamed," she mouthed back, "by a polite slacker with a death wish." But she was smiling. The sunbeam fell across the bed like liquid gold. Wei Yin lay on his back, one arm draped lazily over his eyes, breathing slow and even. Beside him, curled against his side like a cat claiming territory, was Lord Yi Chen, the Demon King, the Butcher of 3 realms, the most feared being in existence. He had one hand fisted in Wei Yan's robe. His face was pressed against Wei Yan's shoulder. He was unmistakably clinging. Wei Yin smiled and didn't move. This, he thought, was worth choking on that convenience store bun. Yi Chen stirred slightly, mumbled something unintelligible, and tightened his grip. "Shoo," Wei Yin whispered. "Go back to sleep. I'm not going anywhere." System translation, quiet, almost soft rest. "I will remain. You are safe." Yi Chen smiled against his shoulder, a small, secret smile, and obeyed. Extra. The Celestial Court, 3 years after the failed invasion. A new general is reviewing the files on the Demon King situation. "Wait," the general says, frowning. "So the possessive ghost husband is actually just a sickly mortal who talks politely?" "Yes," his aide confirms. "And the Demon King is terrified of him, obsessively in love with him. Actually, but also terrified. And the system is a translation error? A very aggressive translation error, yes." The general stares at the file. Then he closes it. "Let's just leave that whole situation alone," he decides. His aide nods vigorously. Far away, in the demon palace, Wei Yin yawns and pulls his blushing husband closer for a nap. The system translates, "Sleep. You are mine, blushing demon king of my heart." Yi Chen screams into a pillow. Wei Yin smiles. Peace reigns.